All right. Hi there, and welcome to the Echo Solar Home Tour. My name's Andrew Mills, and today we'll be talking about a deep energy retrofit home in the Inglewood neighborhood in Calgary. With me today is Ken Newell, who's the homeowner of the home. Welcome to the Echo Solar Home Tour, Ken.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Um, your home is an example of renovating rather than rebuilding. Essentially, it's an example of what we would call a deep energy retrofit. So give me a bit of background, Ken, why you would choose to renovate your home like this. What were the main things you were trying to accomplish?
Well, it started off with a couple really big decisions. After buying the place, realizing that it actually had quite a few things wrong with it. Um, it's an old home, inner city home, late 1940s, early 1950s. Uh, Very energy inefficient, and just old components, in terms of wiring, plumbing, and so on. So lots of issues. But at the same time, the home had some nice features, as an old home does, some character, and so it started off with the big question of, is it better to just tear it down and start from scratch, or work with what we have and see if we can make it work. The other thing was the home was a little bit less than 1,000 square feet. So for a family of four, by today's standards, that's a fairly small home, but thought we could make it work. So set out to see what we could do.
Ken, what's the Guide rating of this home? Do you have any, did you get it tested or do you have any historical data that supports this?
Yeah, and in fact, there was a government program at the time where you could get a little bit of money back on certain energy efficiency upgrades, and so, but you had to have a before and after test. And so when we bought the house, it tested at 53, which is actually pretty bad, but
That's under the old system of Guide.
yeah, that's right.
I think
The
you've
old
got a
Energy.
picture. I think you've got a picture of the old house here, don't you?
Yeah. So
There it is.
this is how it looked when we bought it,
Right.
and so yeah, it came in at 53. Like I say, this is pretty bad, but in fact, pretty typical for a house of this vintage. So once the renovations were done, at least the first stage of renovations, it was retested, and it came in at 79. Since then, we've done more work and added renewable energy. So now probably well over 80 and 80. That, I mean, on the old scale.
That's a really good result. One of the things you did, you shared with me your energy rating, and under the new Guide system, which measures it in gigajoules, you'd be somewhere around 93, which is actually not bad. That's pretty close to what a new home might be. But again, pretty good result. Moving from a 53 to a 79 on the old Guide is pretty substantial. So let's take a look at some of the features of your home. Tell us, what do you think the standout feature would be of your home?
Well, I think what I'm really happy with is like I say, it's an older home, and there were some nice things about it. You've got the original fir and birch hardwood floors, an old lath and plaster kind of feature wall in the kitchen, um, wood windows. So things that are kind of neat about an old house, but at the same time needing to be comfortable and way more energy efficient. So I think we've achieved the balance.
Very nice. So when we build our energy efficient homes, we make a series of energy efficient choices. What would you say were the main choices you had to make when you upgraded this home?
I think starting with just opening up the home, it was fairly small rooms, quite dark, really not taking advantage of a nice southern exposure on the house. So the first thing, I guess, during the renovation was actually opening up walls Now putting in the bay window on the south side. Now we got sun all the way through, winter sun actually all the way through the house.
Hmm.
So opening up the house, making it more open, much brighter. So that was internally, and externally. So we say a deep energy retrofit. So we're looking, at least cutting energy costs in half. So this is a pretty extensive renovation. Took the siding off. The siding was distressed anyways. No vapor barrier, really poor insulation. 2x4 walls on this main floor with wood chips for insulation. I did look it up. I think it's got an R value of 4 or something. It's pretty bad, but not uncommon for a house of this vintage. And
I had an old house. I didn't even have wood chips. It was just empty, the spaces in those walls.
yeah, well, and in fact, the basement walls. So they lifted the house in the 1970s, and you can see that basement section a good 3 feet above grade. That was in the basement, which was renovated. It was just drywall on concrete,
Oh,
no insulation at all.
wow. Okay.
So again, not uncommon for work that was done over the last 50, 60 years. So it needed a lot of upgrading, and probably actually in hindsight, you can get some kind of economies of scale. I mean, just from the size of the project. I mean, it was kind of everything had to be done. And so it made sense to just do everything at once. So the big thing is insulation. So we added 2 inches of extruded polystyrene top to bottom. So that's right from soffit to below grade. So dug around the foundation, 2 inches of foam on the outside of the planking of the house, and then re-stucco over the top of it. So insulate the walls. In the attic, we doubled the thickness of the insulation that was in there. This is just a blown-in fiber insulation. An easy project actually for a weekend do-it-yourself kind of project. Rented a blower from a big box store, building supply store, a couple bags of insulation, doubled the thickness. It was probably about 6 inches that was in there. Now it's about 12 to 14 inches of insulation. At the same time, we're trying to make a pretty small house work for 4 people. So we're really conscious of space. And so here, extended the ceiling joists and put planking down in the attic, and it's actually used for. Now this is unconditioned space, of course, so it is hot and cold up there. But things like Christmas decorations
Oh, yeah.
or seasonal tires and things like that. So making use of every square inch. Installed this drop down ladder to access the attic. But the point I wanted to make, just to make the house work, it just meant making sure that every square inch of the house is being used.
I get it. That's good.
And then, as I mentioned, so new stucco on the outside of the house, new windows all the way around, all double paned, low E, gas filled windows. So the house went from being basically drafty all the time to being in a situation where it is probably too tight, airtight to actually be healthy, buildup of humidity and so on. So installed a heat recovery ventilator. It's a fairly small one. This one's a Fantech. And so it's pulling from downstairs around the laundry room, downstairs bathroom, and then the intake, fresh air from outside, actually is just fed into the plenum of the furnace and distributed through the ducting of the house. So always a little bit of inside air being taken off and a little bit of fresh air being taken in, with some heat exchange in the process.
Interesting.
So the other thing I mentioned, the windows, all the windows were changed. The old windows, Andrew, I don't know if on your place, if you remember the old sash and pulley, like the ropes and pulley type windows.
Yeah, I had those.
So terrible for efficiency, lots of leaks, single pane. And so
Well, I
changed
remember
all,
that. I remember the curtains moving on a windy day. It was that
yeah,
drafty up here.
yeah. So they had to go.
Yeah.
And but the thing about the old windows is they were wood, and they had the, let's say, mullions, the little wood
Right.
trim on it, so it looked like an old house. And so we were able to get new windows. These have a fir trim on them as well,
Mm-hmm.
and actually look very similar to
Mm-hmm.
the old ones that we took out, but way more energy efficient.
Right. Makes
And the
sense.
other thing is even just adding drapes and window blinds. These are a Hunter Douglas honeycomb blind, and I suppose in retrospect I might have gone triple pane, which was not that common when I started this renovation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even things like the window blinds, reasonable cost, but huge difference. Boy, on a really cold winter night or on a really hot summer day, they make a huge difference.
Interesting.
The other thing is, I mentioned making use of every square inch of the house. And so, like, the kids' bedrooms were down the basement, and they didn't like it cool, and I understand
Mhm.
that. So the downstairs space, it had potential. It had 8-foot ceilings, it had good sized windows, and so we could work with it. And so the kids' bedrooms were put downstairs. And I took out the hot water tank. So it replaced the furnace, the old 1960s 60% efficient furnace, with
Right.
a new Carrier high efficiency. I think it's 95, 96% efficient,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Took out the old hot water tank, put in this um, on-demand hot water heater. So it's they say a combi, so combination. So if there's a requirement for domestic hot water taps anywhere, it's domestic hot water. If there's a call for heating, it becomes a space heater. So it does
So
both.
hydronic heating now.
So it's hydronic heat in the basement. So it's a mix
Okay.
of radiators. And these radiators that you see down here, these are Runtel radiators, actually a cast radiator, not aluminum, but quite decorative, and I really like it. So the basement's a mix of radiators and in-floor heating, and so the house is to a large degree heating from the basement up.
Okay.
And so there's still a central furnace, hot air furnace, but a good share of the heat is actually coming from the basement. And that's where we really needed it, because this was actually living space.
So
So
that combi unit, hot water unit. So for the hydronic heating, it circulates the water, and for your household tap water, it just runs it from the city service to the taps, heats it on the way. That's interesting. That's an unusual unit.
yeah. So it's really like two separate systems.
Okay.
There's a closed loop on the heating circuit, and it's just one loop. Not if you're thinking of hydronic heat with all the pumps and zone valves and everything. Uh, that our
Okay.
house wasn't big enough to warrant that sophisticated of a system. It's just a single loop around the perimeter of the basement, and actually in the floor of both bathrooms, upstairs and downstairs.
Interesting.
Um, and so if so, domestic hot water is always the priority. So if someone opens a tap, it becomes a hot water heater. And then its second priority is space heating, and it looks at the thermostat and decides if it needs space heating. And I think it's quite a good way of doing it. And I'm in a way, I'm surprised that more older homes don't go this way, because cool basements is a real common issue.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting.
So here's kind of a summary for energy efficiency. I won't go through everything, but like I say, it was pretty extensive. You can see some of the real big ones, like wall insulation, going from 5 to an R16. The
Hmm.
basement, we insulated the basement on the outside of the wall and the inside of the wall.
Oh,
Um, Added the heat recovery ventilator. changed out the furnace, changed out the windows, and then a lot of just appliances needed to be updated as well, and that made a big difference. And then just some additional things like the landscaping yard, drought resistant plants, even some of the things in building materials. We used cork flooring in the basement,
Hmm.
in the kids' rooms. Upstairs was redone with bamboo flooring.
Okay.
So apparently some of the more sustainable building materials that are out there.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So I won't say I'm net zero, but just keep working towards it. And Andrew, you and I had this discussion the other day. I originally, when I was in the business, solar was quite expensive, and
Hmm.
I now have it on the house. But 15 years ago, I might have said, well, why would you spend $10,000 on solar when you can spend half of that on energy efficiency insulation, say, and get twice the energy savings that you would from solar? Now, 15 years later, it's not quite so simple.
No, price of
Thanks.
solar is 90% less than what it was even 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't preach that like I used to. I would
Right.
sort of question why you'd want to spend that much money, but now, thanks to the price decreases and the improvement in technology, that renewable energy component is pretty attractive. And sure, energy conservation, still counts for something,
Mhm.
energy efficiency. I know an old home like this, it's kind of like, why are you putting solar on the roof if you've got the wind blowing through the cracks in your windows, kind of thing. So, but
Mhm.
now it's pretty convincing actually in all these areas. So, yeah, we might, I think we could probably give renewable energy a bigger circle.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and here it is.
Yeah. So the final, I guess the icing on the cake and for the renovation was adding in solar. So got the energy consumption way down. And then was always really interested in solar, and was in the business years ago. So
Okay.
um, I think I was one of the first micro connect agreements in the city of Calgary for a residential system.
What year would that have been?
Oh, gee, that was 2008, 2009, I think,
Oh,
somewhere
okay.
in
Yeah,
there.
that's early on. You bet.
Yeah. I think I had my application in within the first week or two when they opened the new
Oh, yeah.
guidelines.
Right.
So the system, it's a 4 kilowatt system. It's in pieces. 2 kilowatts on the roof of the house,
Okay.
and another 2 kilowatts. This is the sun deck on the back side of the house, and so um, it
This
kind
is
of
more
doubles.
recent. This is more recent. This one, isn't it?
Yeah. This is a recent upgrade, and you can see from this picture. So these modules are actually bifacial. So the cells work from both the front side of the module and the back side of the module.
Hmm.
Now, this is on my back deck, so it's not getting a whole lot of sun from the bottom.
No.
If it was out in a big snow covered field, it would be okay.
Hmm.
But why I got these modules is you can see the transparency. It's not totally clear. It's kind of a clouded glass, so it's kind of a soft light. Because it was a deck, I didn't want it to be a cave. I didn't want it to be a dark, solid
Right.
roof. And so these modules have these gaps between the cells where a little bit of light's coming through. So it's just a nice soft light on the deck. And
Nice.
at the same time, it can produce up to 2 kilowatts of power.
That's very nice. Nice little pergola.
And then, so that was, oh yeah, this says, so this is the inverter for the solar PV system. This is inside the house. And so basically just a box on the wall. There's a box on the wall for the solar PV system, and there's a box on the wall for the hot water system. So, like I say, trying to make every square inch of the house count. And then this was taken there just a couple weeks ago. So sort of seeing it, just to compare to what it looked
Mhm.
like in that first picture when we first bought it. So I think still looks like an old house and has the comfortable feel of a well worn in house,
Nice.
but modern where it counts.
So, were there any other features that you wanted to highlight on your home for me today?
Um, I think probably one I didn't mention is it is just location. I mean, I don't have an electric car or anything really exciting like that, but it is inner city. I'm walking distance to downtown. It's an easy bike
Oh,
ride to work, and so I think location counts for a lot. It's a kind of a cool hip inner city neighborhood. I have great neighbors, and really I don't even I could get away even without a car.
interesting. So, what would you say is the most challenging aspect that you found when building this energy efficient home?
I think the tough part in this case is buying the house and realizing that there's a bunch of things that need upgrading, and so it's like, how much do you want to do? And this was a very real world project. I had young kids and working full time and a limited budget and limited time, and so how much time and effort do you want to put into the job? And I think that's the really tough part. And
Hmm.
in my case, I think because there was so much work that needed to be done, it was better to just do it all at once. So you get some economies of scale. But I think like this is $150,000 renovation,
Right.
and so a lot of that's new appliances and cosmetic things. So I can't say exactly how much is related to energy efficiency, but um, that's a pretty big commitment. You can do a lot for a couple $1,000s in terms of blowing insulation, weather stripping, things like that. So I think that's the tough part, and I just think every house is unique.
So what were some of those key costs in that $150,000 upgrade? What would you say were the bigger ones?
Uh, a lot of it just the construction inside, opening up walls,
Oh, okay.
some reinforcing in there. There was we had a lot of custom woodwork done, oak cabinets and so on.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so it was really a little bit of everything: upgraded plumbing, upgraded wiring. We had the walls open, so it's
Mhm.
you're not going to go back and do those things later. It's just like there was still some like knob and tube wiring in the house, things like that. So in I think in our case, it just made sense to just do everything at once. You got a big disposal bin in the backyard. You got contractors on site. Um, it just made sense to do it all at once.
So, is there anything that you would have done differently? Anything that you might have changed?
Yeah, I think I like I say, I won't be too hard on myself because real world project and limited time and budget and so on. But I have to say, probably looking back, I kind of wished I'd actually done more at the time. Things like the double pane windows. Well, now triple pane is pretty common, things like that. So I actually wish I would have done a little bit more. Like I say, it's really hard to go back after you do that work, and you're not
Right.
going to do a little incremental increase after doing something like this. And if you got a 60, 70-year-old house, you're kind of building it for another 60 or 70 years.
That's right. That's right. So, was there any particular aspect that you found the most satisfying to complete?
Yeah, it's a good question. I really love when, especially after these renovations were complete, and people be walking by on the street, and I'd be out doing yard work or something, and and people would say, "Oh, I really love what you've done to your house," or "Gee, we were so sure you were just going to tear it down." And so, which really made me feel good. So I think I managed to achieve a pretty good balance.
And which item do you like best of the new house, of the renovated house?
Um, Certainly, I think that feel you get from being in an old house, and then probably the best of the old and the best of the new. And I really enjoy the solar. I suppose you could say would make more sense to be in a large utility centralized power generation site rather than on the roof of my house. As you can see, some big trees in the back, but
Hmm.
it's like you get a lot of satisfaction out of it, and I don't know, it's like good karma for the house, I guess. So um, I wouldn't be too hard on anybody for being interested in it.
Okay. So let's wrap up. We'll go to the last slide here, Ken, with your pergola. And is there anybody that you want to thank that helped you design or construct your home? Oh, that one, the pergola.
Sure. Um, yeah, a couple thanks. Skyfire Energy, which is the solar system, and Heating. Romcan, I should say, is the Baxi on-demand hot water heater and heating system.
Hmm.
And actually, and to my contractor John Lavoie, who did all the custom woodwork.
Very, very nice. Well, Ken, thanks very much for sharing pictures of your home today. I am looking forward to coming and seeing it on person on the tour this summer. If you just run to the sponsor slide, I want to just to thank our Echo Solar Tour sponsors. Our sponsors have many interesting services to help you build an energy efficient home, and we encourage you to visit them. Please visit our website to find links to all of our sponsors. To find out more about our homes, the tour dates, our sponsors, and everything else about the Echo Solar Tour, please go to our website at echosolar.ca. We hope to see you on the tour this summer. Thank you all for watching today, and thank you, Ken, for joining me.
My pleasure.